But one farmer says, seems to me there was a tea party in Boston that was illegal too.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold.
We shall seek to establish and maintain a dollar which will not change its purchasing and debt-paying power during the succeeding generation.
As anguished shrieks rose up from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
Government credit and government currency are really one and the same thing. A reserve of gold and a small reserve of silver.
Why do central banks hold it?
Well, it's a form of reserves.
Why don't they hold diamonds?
Well, it's tradition, long-term tradition.
Well, some people still think it's money.
Varna man and the wealthiest grave of the 5th millennium BC. This is grave 43 at a particular archaeological site that was discovered in the 70s. These are the stories I like to interrupt the program with here on the Junius Maltby channel because they are a reminder of several valuable lessons. One, you can't take it with you. When the game's over, the king and the pawn go back in the same box. Doesn't matter how wealthy you are, eventually you will be a pile of decomposed bones. Number two, the value of gold as it carries value across all of human time. Millennium after millennium after millennium, humans valued it, and the value of it remains. Here he is buried, and the gold and his wealth that he was buried with still holds value. Now pretend for a moment if they had fiat notes back at this time period, paper notes of any kind, certificates of debt that represented even metal. Let's pretend for a moment they were certificates that represented gold that he could, or anyone could cash in for gold. They would have no value today. The paper would have decomposed and rotted away. Or even if the papyrus scrolls that held value representative of gold existed, they would not be able to be cashed today. Am I right? But here, the gold discovered, if you were to stumble upon such a site, and let's say you grave robbed it, the gold holds the value. So join me as we read about this amazing discovery and learn from history in the past. In the 1970s, archaeologists in Bulgaria stumbled upon a vast Copper Age necropolis from the 5th millennium BC, containing the oldest golden artifacts ever discovered near the modern-day city of Varna. But it was not until they reached grave 43 that they realized the real significance of the finding. Inside burial 43 were the remains of a high-status male and unfathomable riches. More gold was found within this burial than in the entire rest of the world in that period. Most people have heard of the great civilizations of Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley, which are all noted for being the earliest known civilizations to feature urbanization, organized administration, and cultural innovation. But few have heard of the mysterious civilization that emerged on the shores of lakes of the Black Sea some 7,000 years ago in Bulgaria. The Varna culture, as it has come to be known, was not a small and inconsequential society that emerged in a little corner of Bulgaria and disappeared quickly into the pages of history. Rather, it was an amazingly advanced civilization, more ancient than the empires of Mesopotamia and Egypt, and the first known culture to craft golden artifacts. Varna is also now home to the largest known prehistoric necropolis in southeastern Europe, which reflects a richness in cultural practices, complex funerary rites, an ancient belief system, and the capacity to produce exquisite and expertly crafted goods. It has come to be known as the cradle of civilization in Europe. The rise of the Varna culture. Evidence suggests that it was between 4600 and 4200 BC when goldsmithing first started in Varna. As advances were made and craftsmen mastered metallurgy of copper and gold, the inhabitants now had something extremely valuable to trade. Increased contacts with neighbors, both north and south, eventually opened up trade relations within the Black Sea and Mediterranean region, which was of great importance for the development of the society. The deep bay, along which the settlements of Varna provided a comfortable harbor for ships sailing across the Black Sea, and Varna became a prosperous trading center. Increased trading activity allowed the metallurgists to accumulate wealth, and very quickly a societal gap developed with metallurgists at the top, followed by merchants in the middle and farmers making up the lower class. Incredible discoveries made at a nearby cemetery also suggest that Varna had powerful rulers or kings, but we will come back to that. And so the foundations had been laid for the emergence of a powerful and flourishing culture whose influence permeated the whole of Europe for thousands of years to come. The first evidence of Varna's ancient civilization came in the form of tools, vessels, utensils, and figurines made from stone, flint, bone, and clay. Then an incredible chance discovery came to light that made headlines around the world. In October 1972, excavator operator Rachel Maronov stumbled upon a vast Copper Age necropolis containing the oldest gold artifacts ever discovered. It was to become one of the most important archaeological discoveries ever made in Bulgaria. Extensive excavations were launched under the direction of Mikhail Lazarov, 1972 to 1976, and Ivan Ivanov, 1972 to 1991, revealing for the first time the magnificent civilization of Varna. More than 300 graves were uncovered in the necropolis, and between them over 22,000 exquisite artifacts were recovered, including 3,000 items made from gold with a total weight of 6 kilograms. Other precious relics found within the graves included copper, high-quality flint, stone, tools, jewelry, shells of Mediterranean mollusks, pottery, obsidian blades, and beads. Analysis of the graves revealed that the Varna culture had a highly structured society. Elite members of society were buried in shrouds with gold ornaments sewn into the cloth wrappings, and their graves were laden with treasures, including gold ornaments, heavy copper axes, elegant finery, and richly decorated ceramics, while others had simple burials with few grave goods. Grave 43. While there were many elite burials uncovered, there was one in particular that stood out amongst the rest, Grave 43. Inside Grave 43, archaeologists uncovered the remains of a high-status male who appears to have been a ruler or leader of some kind. More gold was found within this burial than in the entire rest of the world in that period. The male was buried with a scepter, a symbol of high rank or spiritual power, and wore a sheath of solid gold over his penis. The burial is incredibly significant as it is the first known elite male burial in Europe. Prior to this, it was the women and children who received the most elaborate burials. Marija Gimbutes, a Lithuanian-American archaeologist who was well known for her claims that Neolithic sites across Europe provided evidence for matriarchal pre-Indo-European societies, suggested that it was the end of the 5th millennium BC when the transition to male dominance began in Europe. Indeed, in the Varna culture, it was observed that around this time men started to get the better posthumous treatment. The burials in Varna necropolis have also offered a lot more than the precious artifacts found within them and discoveries relating to societal hierarchies. The features of the graves have also provided key insights into the religious beliefs and complex funerary practices of this ancient civilization. It became apparent to researchers that the males and females were laid out in different positions within the graves. Males were laid out on their backs, while females were placed in a fetal position. But most surprising of all was the discovery that some graves contained no skeleton at all, and these symbolic graves were the richest of them all in terms of the amount of gold and other treasures found within them. Some of these symbolic graves, or cenotaphs, also contained human-sized masks made of unbaked clay placed in the position where the head would have been. The graves containing the clay masks were also found to contain gold amulets in the shape of women placed in the position where the neck would have been. These amulets, associated with pregnancy and childbirth, indicated that the burials were those of females. Further evidence of this is the fact that there were no battle axes found in these cenotaphs, but each of them had a copper pin, a flint knife, and a spindle whorl. The downfall and legacy of the Varna culture. By the end of the 5th millennium BC, the once strong and powerful Varna culture began to disintegrate. It has been hypothesized that the downfall of the Varna was the result of a combination of factors including climate change, which turned large areas of arable land into marshes and swamps, as well as the incursion of horse-riding warriors from the steppes. Although the Varna civilization did not leave any direct descendants, the members of this ancient culture did leave behind many lasting legacies and set the stage for the emergence of subsequent civilizations throughout Europe. Their skills in metallurgy were unprecedented in Europe, and indeed throughout the world, and their society demonstrated many features of a highly advanced and developed civilization. They also developed the societal structure of a centralized authority, a person or institution to monitor and ensure the proper functioning of the society. All the fundamental principles of modern society have been found, a model of civilization that we still follow to this day. So here we see 7,000 years ago, a civilization placing value on gold, using it, forming it, likely transacting with it in an economic way. This predates, as we just read, any civilization we knew of existing in Europe. And I'm guessing that at this time we saw one of the many ice age cycles on the planet coming to an end, a major thaw, changing the landscape, changing where water was, and destroying certain agricultural capabilities of the culture, as well as what we also read, foreign invaders coming from the east off the steppes of Asia, horseback. However, the one thing that remains, even though the culture is gone, the culture has been lost, since buried under history, the gold remains, the value of it remains, transposing all of time and all of human history. It's just another case for gold, furthering its resume as a store of value, a keeper of wealth, something that can be passed on almost for eternity, or as long as we're here anyway. So the next time you're in a conversation or reading an article and someone refers to gold as an archaic or barbarous relic that has served its purpose and is no longer needed and is useless as a store of value and silly to own, just remember, it's been here for 7,000 years. For 70 centuries, humans have held it, valued it, and stored wealth with it. And to this day, nothing has changed. Nothing whatsoever. Central banks hoard it more and more by the week, by the day, monthly. We cover those articles routinely here, and they haven't diminished. They continue to show up in the news as central banks continue to stack and hoard gold. And you could almost argue they are the wealthy elites, the leaders, just like this man in grave 43. The elite, the wealthy rulers of the world, still wish to be buried with their gold. And they know that who has the gold has the power, has the wealth. So that's today's broadcast episode here on the most boring channel on YouTube, the Junius Maltby channel. If you enjoyed this today and stuck around for the duration, don't forget to hit the like button down below. If you're not subscribed, subscribe here to the channel. And I thank you for being here and taking part in the Junius Maltby channel. Oh, and one more thing. Don't forget, get the coffee mug. So next time you're listening to the channel, you can pour yourself some tea or coffee or cider or beverage of your choice. But that's down below in the Teespring links. You'll see one of the coffee mugs with the image of the coin, the face of Marcius on it, and the emoji symbol, the first time humans ever wrote the word for freedom, liberty, manumission from slavery, to be released from debt. Such an important symbol here on the Junius Maltby channel. And also a vital piece of human history.